Commence primary ignition.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
What a piece of junk.
Enterprise, this is the captain.
I got a bad feeling about this.
It's all part of the plan.
Engage.
Welcome back to Podcast 2 for 1. I'm your host, Donovan Thompson, with my co-host,
Daniel Wingfield.
And today is episode 139 of Podcast 2 for 1. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and notification bell. That way you're up to all future episodes of Podcast 2 for 1, as well as all the cool content we have at 2 for 1 Studios, youtube.com/2 for 1 Studios, the best place to listen to content. And of course, today we are talking Black Adam. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Kapow.
Kapow.
There we go. I was waiting for you to go first. It's
okay.
Your thing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, I got excited about Black Adam. So we're talking about Black Adam, right? I mean, it just came out over the weekend. I've seen it twice. Daniel has seen it once.
Mm-hmm.
You can also check out my initial reaction on Tavern Talk, which I'm not sure it's dropped yet, but by the time this releases, probably it's dropped. So check out Philip Price's YouTube video there. And it's interesting because I come out of my first initial reaction kind of lukewarm and a little disappointed in some ways, but I think after my viewing with you, my expectations were a little tampered, which we'll get into, and then I come out on the other side like, this is pretty fun. I pre-ordered the Blu-ray this morning, actually, as always.
Which means nothing.
Because
you pre-ordered Morbius.
I did.
Such. Yeah.
Don't tell people that, Daniel. Not on the
you
podcast.
told people that. It's on the internet. I mean, it's archived somewhere on the internet. Some website has archived that information forever.
There's going to be some studio executive that's like, I'm this close to being hired for something.
Exactly.
And then someone's going to pull out this clip of me being like, I pre-ordered Morbius. And then
yeah, exactly.
I'm going to be screwed over.
That'll be the thing that does it.
Yeah, okay, let's get into this. So 15 years ago, The Rock came out and was cast as Black Adam, right? And this was back when he kind of started his acting career with like The Rundown and Be Cool and Walking Tall, when he was kind of making that leap from wrestling into acting full time. And it's been 15 years to get to this point, and the movie's come out. It's went through multiple iterations, and now it's even part of this thing called the DCEU, which we started with Man of Steel back in 2013, I think, maybe 14.
Sounds right.
I think it's 13. It premiered over the weekend, opened up number one, of course, with $67 million, $140 million worldwide, and it just got a China release, which will come out in like 3 or 4 weeks, which is a big deal because no Marvel Phase 4 film has got a China release yet. So that's so at least it keep it on par with some of these MCU box office numbers. So initial impressions, Daniel, how did you feel coming out of Black Adam?
I felt like it was a fun popcorn flick, honestly. I think we've talked about it in the past, but like superhero movies are what we get for action movies most of the time now, right? I mean, like it's very few and far between we have an action movie or a movie that would be labeled mainly action that isn't DC, Marvel, or some new thing trying to spin up. And so I think this as like just as an action movie was a fine action movie. You know what I mean? I'm not going in looking for Oscar performances or like beautiful cinematography. I'm going in looking for like maybe hopefully some decent performances, some cool fist pumping moments, adrenaline and like some funny one-liners and stuff like that, and to be in and out without it taking too drastically much of my time. A couple hours and I'm good. And I think that's what we got. We got a movie that had some great performances from Pierce Brosnan, especially. We got
Definitely.
a serviceable story. I don't think it was. It didn't distract me from enjoying the movie, which I think could not be said of some recent Marvel projects, to be fair. And so, I think I enjoyed my time with Black Adam, and I'm up for more.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, I've always said this. I said that DC has everything better than Marvel, than the movies. better comics, better overall better characters. Spider-Man's still my number one, so be that way it may be. But better comic books, better cartoon animated movies, typically better video games. Spider-Man again is kind of coming up to kind of start to rival that. But it's always been better. And then until the Marvel Studios movies come out, and even then we had The Dark Knight, right? We had The Dark Knight Rises. I mean, we had, Batman Begins, even Superman the movie back, we started it in the 70s and Batman 89. And then Marvel Studios kind of come along and kind of started cleaning house, right? And they started making this interconnected universe and really started bringing the heat. And I still think on any given day, if the DC characters were done correctly, then they would blow Marvel out of the water. And it's always been kind of my stance on it. So it's always been kind of disappointing to see them flub some of these characters and make some weird choices, with some of the movies that have made it to the screen, movies that didn't make it to the screen. That's not even counting Batgirl being canceled and all these other things happening at Warner Brothers Discovery at the moment. But overall, I think that, Black Adam is a character that has always traditionally been a villain in the comics, and he's kind of swung anti-hero sometimes, but of course you have The Rock on there. You're going to want to have him come in and be the hero in some sense, be the protagonist.
Well, he's not going to be involved if he's a villain. That's not his brand.
Right.
That would not literally he would be like, no, I'm not going to be a villain only Black Adam. That's not
100%
not on brand for him.
And those kind of things don't really bother me, changing that aspect of the character, really. But then, Black Adam is heavily tied to Shazam. And, I mean, he says it in the movie to gain his powers, right? Which is something I think I brought to you. I was kind of worried, like, hey, would they change that aspect of it, because would people be confused? Even Shazam, his name is Captain Marvel, which Marvel is kind of almost reappropriated for their character now. And he says Shazam to turn it into Shazam. So... Yes. It's a kind of an interesting thing. And anyway, so they're kind of taking away some of the roots of, like, Shazam is not in it. He's not really a villain. He's more of an anti-hero. And all in all, I enjoy the movie. I think there's some plot things that kind of I scratch my head at. And there's even some things I'm like, well, I wish maybe that they had focused the first on this aspect of it. It's directed by Jaume Collet-Serra, and he also directed Jungle Cruise, which is my top 5 of last year, with also The Rock. And it was that one specifically was, I thought, very well directed, and it kind of hit that exact tone and like genre, perfectly. He's also directed things like a lot of Liam Neeson movies, Unknown, Nonstop, Run All Night, and The Commuter. Those are all Liam Neeson action movies in the last 10 years. But I just directing was okay for the most part. I think there's some things that just didn't work. The human characters didn't really work as well. There's some needle drop moments that didn't work. And there's, but there's things that did work. I mean, you have Hawkman. Who's the actor who played Hawkman? He was fantastic in it.
He was.
Yeah. Aldous Hodge. He killed it. I thought the costuming was great on the board on him as well. And then Pierce Brosnan coming as Dr. Fate, and he killed it. And I was just tickled with the JSA for the most part. And you have Atom Smasher, and then you also have Cyclone. I'm not huge on Cyclone, more so Atom Smasher, but even them, they come in and they're really fun, and they have a lot of good chemistry and stuff. So overall, I like the movie. It's got a lot of action in it. It feels like it's action nonstop. But I do think my issues with the movie mainly stem just from connections to the wider DCEU and kind of how they handle the world building and the universe. It's really no fault. And I get what they're doing. They want to bring in characters and not have to have a whole movie of the JSA to introduce them, then have them with the Black Adam. They want their cake and eat it too. But I'm still just confused as to what the timeline of the DCEU is at the moment anyway. We have Zack Snyder's Justice League. We have Justice League. There's just all these kind of conflicting things going on. Wonder Woman 84 doesn't make sense in the context of even Justice League. Shazam makes sense. It actually kind of follows, I would say, the core timeline, but it's just weird. It's weird. And I think my problem stemmed mainly from that, but I'm hoping, Daniel, that The Flash when it comes out, it kind of resets everything. And there's like gatekeepers basically. They're like, okay, this is the new timeline. Let's not fuck it up too much.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that Warner Brothers seems just as confused as you are so far, as far as the timeline. And I think, I think part of the reason I can enjoy this movie, I think, as much as I do, is because I have zero investment into the DCEU as a franchise or anything like that. Because I'm just kind of, it hasn't given me enough reasons to want to care about what they're doing over there. And so I don't have really, I mean, I love Batman. You know, I grew up with Batman, and you know, I have you know, I like the other members of like the Justice League and stuff like that, but like I think if this was a Marvel project, if this was something, or even maybe Star Wars or something that I had a more of a sentimental or long-standing relationship for, you know, I think, you know, it's like one of those things of like, for me, this movie almost works better because I don't care about anything else, because I can almost take it on its own. Right. But it makes a lot of sense that, you know, you as someone like that's a fan of like the universe that wants to see it improve, you know, that there's some more frustrating like parts of it. Because I think, you know, you're probably right. Like the connections it has to the other universes is probably it's like, not the weakest part of it, but it's just a part that kind of like it feels inconsistent when like this movie, the crux of this is all about heroes not killing people,
right? And
Batman like does what he does in Batman vs Superman. I mean, it's to that point where you're just like, it doesn't feel like the same universe at all.
And
it feels
Superman
like they're just different
kills
places.
Zod.
Exactly.
In the first Man of Steel. I mean, Wonder Woman. She doesn't really kill people. She kind of saves them, but she also. Well, I mean, in World War One, she totally kills people.
Yeah, and it's just, it's also just like such it's such a cliched and like kind of boring line to draw that where if like, you know what I mean, like that I feel like. That's such a lack of nuanced line to draw in the sand in terms of to divide heroes versus villains. And I think I get that it's like easy to do, or it's like an easy way to draw the line in the sand, but I just think that like it just makes the whole, it's like it makes it feel less realistic, because like, come on, like no one realistically thinks it's that simple. You know what I mean? Like, or there's version of this world that like it would actually work that way.
Yeah, no. If we're going to talk about the no kill rule, I mean, I think it's only interesting with a few specific characters. And yes. Like example, Batman has a no kill rule. Spider-Man has a no kill rule. Superman typically has a no kill rule. And those almost always go out the door when it's involving other species that are not human. It's typically only humans. Superman's almost all life, but Batman and Spider-Man, it's only pertained to humans. I mean, even Spider-Man was slaying people in Endgame, like, you know, slaying those monsters. He put on the kill mode, whatever, and like we don't bat an eye because it's not humans, and that's okay. Batman has killed plenty of parademons, but they're not humans, so it's okay. And the reason why it's okay for that to happen with those characters is because they're more street level, and they have origins tied specifically to their parents being killed in front of them. And so it's like it's more of it's not even like a sane thing. Like Batman's is like it's actually a character flaw that Batman can't kill people. He would save so many more people if he killed the Joker, but it's a character flaw that he doesn't.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So like, in my opinion, but that's what makes him particularly interesting, right? Like drawing the line on the broader universes is not as interesting. Like Iron Man, he kills terrorists in the first movie. Captain America kills tons of people in the first movie, and even Winter Soldier. We
the
don't
Avengers inadvertently kill hundred thousands of people. You know, even though it's more of like.
You mean the Chitauri or
the Avengers? I was saying like Age of Ultron plot. I mean, the Avengers themselves are responsible for inadvertently, obviously, but like
Sokovia, yes,
killed thousands of people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right?
Like,
yeah.
You know, it's like
It's
a different thing, but I do feel like it does. I think it is like that thing where like it's more interesting the way that MCU handles it. Like the Sokovia Accords, that actually feels more like reminiscent of what we might see in real life. But
Well, that's where the DC universe could have went, right? You could have went
yes.
where you had some ambiguity. Some people are doing the best they can, others are not, like Black Adam. And then you have a team like the JSA formed to kind of like, no, we're by the book. If they want to go that route, that's not a thing in the comics. Let's go by the book. And then you have them tracking down all these people who think they're heroes like Black Adam or whatever. And then you kind of go down that route, which is, whatever. But I mean, even Superman could have fought, or it could have been even like, hey, Superman, I doubt they would do that one. But anyway, that was kind of a mistake anyway.
Sure.
Villain Zod. And even then, he's not a human. He just looks like a human. So it's like it's more conflicting, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the drawing the line thing is a little. It's uninteresting, especially if they're constantly saying you're not a hero. He's like, I'm not trying to be a hero. Blah blah blah. This. It's like it's kind of repetitive. And the kid's kind of a big weak part for me, just because it's kid actors and he's more exposition, and even like coming on the skateboard at the end, it's pretty lame. Just a lame shot. It looks lame, and then the amount of people that you see Kondak running, just like it's like this doesn't feel like it feels like a small, grocery store people doing something versus all of Kondak fighting this Satan stuff.
Also,
real quick.
Also, the way that he rallies them by just standing up and doing this, and I was just like, okay. Yeah, it was just like, that they all look at that and realize we must revolt.
This is also like a symbol for like in back in the 80s, if you wanted to get you're like, hey, the female anatomy, you would do that in the crowds in the 80s. So it's kind of like it's an interesting thing that they did that for Kondak. But let's kind of talk about The Rock. So, obviously, The Rock is the main star of this movie, and some people don't like it for some reason. I personally do. Do I think he has the best acting in the world? No, but he reminds me, he's a modern day Arnold Schwarzenegger in the fact that he's someone who puts in the work, and he's entertaining, and he does what is required of him in the role that he accepts. And he's someone that, again, he now has a big franchise in like Hobbs and Shaw and even Black Adam and even Jungle or Jumanji, but he's someone who typically, I consider him one of the last actual blockbuster movie stars where he can be in a movie and it makes money without it being some other IP, right? Tom Cruise is one of those. He can still just do something and it makes money. He typically has only been doing Mission Impossible and Top Gun lately. But he still is a movie star. So is The Rock. Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth, all those other guys, they make a movie that's outside the MCU. It does not perform near as well because those characters are bigger than the actor. Rock is bigger than the characters he plays sometimes. Even Black Adam. People don't know who Black Adam is. I know who The Rock is. Mm-hmm. So I think he did exactly what he needed to do for the role. I enjoyed him in it. He was fun. He even had this, I think you mentioned it after the screening, he has this Terminator kind of thing where he's learning, fish out of water, kind of Captain America kind of style, where he's kind of learning some of the ins and outs of the culture. I kind of wish they'd leaned into that even more. It might have been more fun, actually. Yeah, no, his kind of naive viewpoint on everything was sometimes, kind of funny. But yeah, I think he did fine. I honestly think, I mentioned this after the viewing, but I almost feel like he could have given us a little more, personality in some places. It almost felt a little restrained from him, in how much he was kind of leaning into, I don't know, his theatricalness in a way. But yeah, I think it wasn't a role that requires a lot of range or something like that, and I think obviously they did things to kind of supplement that, a lot of the emotional arc comes from the people of Kondak, and that's kind of kind of shown through the mom and her boy and stuff like that, and so we kind of get the emotional arc and even through the flashbacks and finding out the truth about Black Adam's son and all the history and that kind of stuff. So I think, yeah, like you said, I think he did everything he needed to do for this role. I think it like I said, it's not I don't think nothing he did, none of his lines came off weird or wrong. They came off, it seemed to be they were intended to be for the character, and I think they worked. So yeah, I do too. Overall, I enjoyed it. What do you think about the way they kind of tell his origin story? At the beginning, I was kind of nervous about having this 5-minute epilogue with like the kid. Also, the kid narrating just doesn't sound cool, and it's just kind of like hit and miss, but it's whatever. But then the kind of how they dolly out, like it's actually his son who is the champion, and he was bestowed the powers, and then the grand wizards of the Shazam whatever power, the gods, I guess, they imprison him into this tomb versus like as a someone who's dangerous and who's using the power for not how they intended, which I like that part of it. I'm not sure I like how they dollied out the information in the beginning, but I like how we got the information as we went through the movie.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I mean, I think it was a little clunky here and there, like you said, with the
sure.
kids' voiceover and stuff like that. But like, I think it is that thing of like you're trying to introduce a character that has this like really long backstory that kind of like, it's almost kind of like the Eternals a little bit. You know what I mean? It's like, how do you do this without a little bit of clunky exposition almost?
Yeah.
And I think they handled it fine. I mean, it wasn't seamless. I think sometimes I still think about like the Lord of the Rings and how like the first movie opens up with like 10 minutes of exposition, and how it like has never bothered me. And I'm like, how did they do that so well that like it for me that like doesn't feel clunky. Like to open up with like a 10-minute montage with voiceover almost.
I think part of that is too, you have who is the actress who played Gwendolyn?
Yeah. The voiceover actress.
Kate Blanchett.
Yes.
You have her. The cinematography is pretty great. The score is pretty fantastic. I mean, like it kind of,
and it fits in kind of this fantasy world, like storybook world. Yes, but all that to say is like it's hard to do it well, and not many people have done it well, like that much exposition. And I think they did a passable job. It wasn't bothersome to me.
Yeah, I was kind of bothered by it personally. I mean, part of me was like, this stuff is pretty interesting, and I thought almost that it would have been cool to have almost like Captain America had the first movie all in ancient Kahndaq, right, which is Egypt basically, and then like tell that story and be visually different and have a different culture and landscape, and then he gets imprisoned at the end of that movie, and then Black Adam 2, is kind of more what we see. You set up the villain from Black Adam 2. That's one of the weakest things about Black Adam 2. The villain is like almost non-existent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's pretty non-existent.
Well, and it's just like the villain is Satan, just the devil.
Kind of, yeah. And that's the thing too. You have not only the king who wants to be ruler of Kahndaq, right? Which you don't have to go too much motivation there. I mean, it's kind of like a motivation as old as time, right? And then you have looks like the underworld and like Satan or hell or whatever, and that's all you can say. Okay, I know the motivation is you want to rule everything, so it aligns, but still, it feels a little weak sauce.
It
it's
is
like
weak sauce.
I don't know who these characters are. I don't know who these demons are.
Well, and then just the CGI at the end just didn't look good too. To put icing on top of the cake. He just it looked like a World of Warcraft character to me.
Yeah,
almost.
I mean, it's a very similar kind of thing. It's Shazam, which I still regard as one of the best DCEU movies ever. And
it's definitely tough.
And that one they had Mark Strong's character. We knew his motivations, and we started the movie on him, right? And he's someone who is, feels insecure and always been kind of put down his whole life by his family, and he wants power. And then the demons that he resurrects or unimprisons, they want the same thing, and they're using him as a conduit, right? So it's the same thing that's happened in Black Adam 2, but we care about Mark Strong's character more so than we do. He was the someone who was summoned by the wizard who wasn't worthy, and he wants to be worthy like Shazam is worthy, right? So I think that's kind of the difference. The guy who played, I think you liked him, right? The guy who played the main villain.
He was a fine actor. I think, like you said, he's there in the beginning and the end. He's kind of just like bookended as like a plot. I don't think he was well written as a character, or like the villain was well implemented as an antagonist. But I did think that just some of the general kind of dialogue and just the acting of just kind of the in between moments actually felt pretty nice, and like what I would expect like any decent sized Hollywood movie would be at, like where it just sounds like real people talking, even though these situations may be a little bit dramatic. But yeah, and I think maybe that just struck me just because I think some of the recent Marvel projects have sometimes had dialogue where it just is like all the time. Even the side characters, no one talks like a real person. And I think it was just kind of, I think that has more to do with what I've been watching recently more than like a huge kudos for this movie. I think it's more of just like what bare minimum should be happening in anything.
Yeah, that makes sense. Makes total sense. Let's talk about now. The Rock has come out and said over the week he talks a lot about future plans, even while the current plans are still happening, right? But he talked about this weekend. He said you're absolutely going to see more Dr. Fate. He said 100%. We loved what we did with him, and we, in particular, they were talking about the visuals, like he kind of brought to the table. I would say Pierce Brosnan was amazing at Dr. Fate. Like I loved him without the helmet on, and like just his costume was like next level to me. Like I thought it was so good, even with the unusual helmet. Typically, he has like the pockets, which we saw at the end a little bit, but I kind of like the no eyes. I thought it was pretty sweet looking. But yeah, we kind of know at the end of the movie that he leaves, but the helmet's still around. So maybe, do you think they're going to bring back Pierce Brosnan, or do you think that they're going to recast somebody?
I mean, who knows? I mean, it might even depend on what Pierce Brosnan's willingness is,
Yeah.
But yeah, I do. Just going back to him in this movie, I think he is the highlight. I think for me, I think Pierce Brosnan's Dr. Fate he's in a pretty small role. He may be like maybe second or third on even the amount of lines, but still like his presence is really felt throughout the movie. You know what I mean? Like he just is kind of like this. I don't know. He is this Doctor Strange-esque character, but almost like a wiser, more experienced version than we. I don't know. He really is like he's like the DC's Doctor Strange. Like even just the way
100%.
they animated in the way he fight. I mean, they literally have some of the same like moves. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
But I think to that end. But like I think he crushed it in that small role. But I hope we get to see more Pierce Brosnan Dr. Fate. Absolutely.
Me too. I mean, I could see a whole movie or an HBO Max show of like maybe Pierce Brosnan, a younger version, or just Pierce Brosnan doing something. I mean, I would absolutely kill for that. Again, I think the JSA is one of the highlights of the movie, and I'm glad we got to see him. I do kind of wish, like you feel the history between Hawkman and Dr. Fate, right? And you kind of feel that, and you're like, man, like what happened? Like, how are these guys been operating for so long? It feels like Man of Steel is the first time we've got any type of super anything, and I'm pretty sure it is. But it's interesting. Let's talk about the visual effects. I think you talked about it earlier. Yeah. Visual effects. I mean, like where it's like Ant-Man the Wasp, the trailer just dropped, right? Which we might talk about at the end. I don't know. But there's shots in that where it's like you're on a green screen. There's some shots that look incredible in Ant-Man the Wasp, but there's some that's like it looks exactly like Thor: Love and Thunder, where it's like there's characters and they're like a two shot in their bodies, and there's no like thought in terms of production design or like cinematography and like choice of angles. Just they're in the front of the camera and there's there's background. Same thing in Ant-Man the Wasp. I feel like in Black Adam, you never really feel like they're on maybe when he's in hell. But other than that, it feels like the visual effects are pretty solid for the most part.
Yeah, no, I think they were pretty dang good. I think, like I said, the one part, I mean, the highlight, I think Dr. Fate's visual effects looked fantastic, especially when he was in battle, like doing stuff. And then, the devil guy at the end just didn't look great. And they made him like super dark and like his features kind of hard to see even, and even then he still didn't look great. So I mean, like if he was bright, I don't even know what he would look like if he had been lit up properly. But
I kind of wonder why didn't they do practical for him? But you could have done a mix of practical. He would look so much more cool.
I mean, it's probably more work. I mean, it's a lot easier just to make a CGI character, I would think, than having to like design a practical thing, get the actor on location. I mean, like. It makes, in some degrees, I'm sure it's a lot cheaper these days to do something like that than maybe something more involved. But yeah, I think, like I said, luckily that guy didn't show up to like the last like 10 minutes of the movie or something, so it wasn't that present to be like distracting. So it didn't end up. It's not something that bothered me hugely, but it was something that kind of stood out with the CGI.
Yeah, I mean, is there anything particular that you really liked about the movie that you're like, man, I want more of that? Or is there something particular that you really hated? You're like, I need less of that. And then kind of get into the post-credits scene.
No, like I think it was pretty unoffensive, but also in the same way, like the most interesting thing, like I said, I think, like you said, was the JSA, getting to see Dr. Fate, getting to see Hawkman or Hawkeye, and kind of getting this taste of a wider DCEU that has, like, of course, we got Amanda Waller, like the one, she's got to be like the most appearances in the DCEU at this point, that actress. She's even in, I think, like, one of the cartoons, like, does she like have a cameo in Harley Quinn? I can't remember the cartoon, but like I said, like, I think
the actress or the character,
but maybe both. I can't remember.
The character is like everywhere all the time.
But that actress has been pretty.
Yeah, Viola Day. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we even saw the Peacemaker actress with James Gunn's wife now, who.
Yeah.
You know, she's like, I can't tell if this happens before Peacemaker or before Suicide Squad or what. It feels like it happens before Suicide Squad. I don't know yet where the.
Who knows? Who knows when anything happens? You know, when the DC.
That's true.
But yeah, no, I
Flash.
think I'm down for more. But I think, I mean, obviously the post credit scene is offers some interesting possibilities. So.
Yeah, so I mean, if you don't know yet, I mean, The Rock literally told us on Jimmy Fallon and through all the red carpet things, and now it's everywhere. Henry Cavill has even come out yesterday and shared his official return image and talked about, hey, I'm back as Superman. It feels great, and basically, keep coughing. And basically, you know, it's there's a lot. We're just the tip of the iceberg, right?
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a Man of Steel 2 in some form, and obviously, even The Rock said, hey. They asked him like yesterday, it's a number 2, Black Adam 2, you're gonna fight Superman. He said, no, we gotta kind of build up to that, which I really appreciate. Like, don't do that just yet.
I do.
But yeah, seeing Henry back, hearing I kind of wish they had the Hans Zimmer score, but they had the John Williams score when he pulls in, which is still fun, iconic. Yeah, it's great seeing, you know, and I'm super excited about the possibility of Henry Cavill back in as Superman. I think that's great.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think of the decisions that Warner Brothers has been making lately, this is one of the better ones. They've been making some interesting ones. But yeah, I think Henry Cavill's stock is very high just as an actor and kind of a figure in pop culture. He's kind of become this like figure of like nerddom too, because I think of how much he embodies like so much of the fandoms of some of the characters he embodies. He feels like one of us more than a lot of other actors even do that play some of these roles, you know? And I think that makes him even that more just likable. I think
absolutely.
The DCU needs Henry Cavill to stay. They do. I think
they really do.
And I think so. This is great for them. I mean, I want to see more Henry Cavill as Superman. I want to see more stories with him. I want to see another solo movie with him I'd like to see another take on the character, a different angle than maybe we got with Zack Snyder. So, I'm in.
Yeah, no, I think every time so far the writing or the movie itself has failed him. Man, I still really like Man of Steel. I think it might still be the best DCEU movie, but it's still not like Superman as we know or want him to be. Right? It's getting there, but it's not just there yet. Yeah. And so I think there's a lot of room still to kind of bring out the best version of Superman that we all love and want. I mean, there's things I'd like to talk about, like why does Amanda Waller have an underground water facility, and also it's like she has like 1,000 other presumed superpowered people. What favor does Superman owe Amanda Waller? How long has the JSA been operating? Atom Smasher's grandpa, or is all these things I want no answers to, but also it's like I don't know if I care at the moment because the universe hasn't been reset yet, and the Flash needs to do that very soon. So I'm excited for that.
I mean that's definitely the next headline for the DCU, and see what will be the aftermath of that.
What did you think, real quick, about the AntMan The Wasp trailer?
I thought it looked like a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and that excited me. I mean, it really felt like exploring a world like the Guardian, like a galactic, like crazy, weird part of the world. I thought it is looks like much more of an ensemble movie than maybe even we were anticipating, and. I mean, it seems to be. I mean, everything we got of Kang is like I love it. I love it. I can eat it just into my veins, baby. I mean, it is one of those things. We talk about it. We watch She-Hulk, and it's like, oh my god, the MCU. And then they put out this trailer, and I'm like, I'm back in. Yeah. I mean, if you hit the kind of like highs that the trailer seems to be going, I'm like, all right, let's go. I'm back on. So, I guess, it's exciting in that way. I mean, it's nice to have another project to kind of tangibly know what we're looking forward to. You know what I mean? And start to get some vibes of what that story's going to be like. It feels fucking epic. Really epic.
It does. It feels obviously the biggest Ant-Man we've gotten. I think it's roughly like 5 months away now, 4.5 months away, which is right
Not
around the
that
corner.
long away. No, like beginning
which
of
is
next
awesome.
year.
Yeah, February 17th, I believe. And I'm always down for more Michael Douglas than anything. And I think the big highlight here is Kane the Conqueror, seeing him Jonathan Majors is just an amazing actor. And we got that tease in Loki season 1, and now seeing him in the iconic suit, and it looks like an army of Kangs he's leading an army of Kangs, like thousands of Kangs is what it looks like to me. And I can't wait to see the kind of hell he brings the Avengers, and I'm hoping that the Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars and all that delivers like Endgame did. Think that we need it it seems like for every project I really like in MCU, I have another one that kind of disappoints me lately overall. Yeah. And so I'm looking forward to getting back into the hype again. And interestingly enough, Batman's my number 2 this year, and then I think Black Adam is my number 5 this year. I think number 5.
What's number 1?
Top Gun Maverick still. Top Gun. It didn't really do much wrong at all, so it kind of gets number 1. But Thor: Love and Thunder is not even my top 10 right now. And Doctor Strange is like maybe number 8 or 9 or something. So it's like, it's kind of wild. This is the first time an MCU movie hasn't been in my top 5 in 10 years.
Black Panther would have to just like blow your socks off probably to
Black Panther could do it. I mean, it could, even though it's like it's got everything stacked against it. I mean, everything.
Yeah, I mean,
it could.
It also has one of the better directors, I think, right now in terms of like people at helms of some of the franchises. I think Ryan Coogler's pretty great. So I think it's got as good of a chance, I think, maybe of surprising us than maybe others.
I can see Black Panther coming in numbers 3 or 4, and then knocking Black Adam down to 5 or something or whatever it is.
Sure.
So I'm curious. Again, and I don't think Black Adam is like the bee's knees, like it's the best thing ever, but it did enough. It did what it needed to do, and it didn't disappoint me like Thor: Love and Thunder or even Doctor Strange, which I still like. But those movies like left me just really like, fuck, like that. We don't need more
Deflated.
Thor: Love and Thunders.
It's that thing of like, you go in with hype expecting your hype to increase, and you come out with your hype less than it was when you went in. So I think like you said, Black Panther has a chance to be like maybe one of the most emotionally gut punchy movies, just because of the like meta real world circumstances of it. It's going to be really interesting how that affects everyone's kind of perception of this movie. Like, what will that do in terms of like shading the criticism? I could see, because I could see it going where maybe the movie does get a little bit of a pass because of some of that it's dealing with. I don't know. So it'll be interesting. I mean, I think it's been a down year in some ways for a lot of like superhero things. I mean, I think Peacemaker on HBO Max has probably been the best piece of superhero media we've gotten this year, and
even more than the Batman, I guess, because it actually delivered all the way. I guess.
I mean, really? Batman's fine, but like, come on, Peacemaker like is a 5 out of 5 TV show for me. I mean, like it nails everything it wants to be. The Batman has giant plot issues. I don't think I can't compare the two. Anyway, so I mean, I think it's been a down year on that side of things. I think, like I would say Peacemaker and Moon Knight are like the highlights of the year, and those are TV shows, which is different, especially for Marvel. So it'll be interesting to see how the year turns out, and I think, looking to the future, there's a lot of potential hype and a lot of potential disappointment.
Yeah, we said this earlier, I think early in the summer, but this year's TV has absolutely been outshining this year's movie landscape. Part of that I think might be COVID. Part of that I don't know. Maybe I just don't know, honestly. But Daniel, how can our listeners write into us?
Listeners, you can write into bit.ly/241mail. Let us know what you thought of Black Adam. Did you think it was as fine and serviceable and enjoyable as we did? Do you think that it needed to be more than it was? Let us know. bit.ly/241mail.
And if you can't hit up our bit, you can always write us in the comment section below. youtube.com/241studios, the best place to consume the content. And of course, we're on all podcast services like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. I think I'm going to finally have to watch Black Adam after 15 years waiting for him to finally embody the role. I'm excited to see. I mean, I hope we get 17 Black Adam movies. I don't give a fuck. Like, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
I'm totally fine with that. I want all of it, more. But I'm excited, at least for the DCU, just in terms of like maybe they'll kind of get some stuff going. The Flash, Blue Beetle, Aquaman 2, and of course we have other things like the Batman and Joker 2 around the corner. And I believe our next podcast will be talking about the season overview of the first season of House of the Dragon, which I'm super excited about. I mentioned a minute ago how TV has been nailing it this year, and I think this is maybe the show of the year that has been doing it the best, or at least maybe top 2 or 3. So I'm excited for that. I'll catch you next time. My name is Donovan Thompson.
I am Daniel Wingfield.
And we have spoken.